Hello everyone, welcome to a rare episode of Music Theory Intermediate. Today we are going to go over the basics of figured bass, specifically in regards to triad inversions. My goal with the Music Theory Intermediate playlist is to compile topics that are not necessary for all musicians to know. Figured bass is one of those topics. It will be highly beneficial for you to understand key signatures, intervals, how to build chords, and chord inversions. Figured bass is an interesting bundle of tradition, math, and music, so let's jump on in. Figured bass is an old system of notating chord inversions in music. For the sake of simplicity and clarity, I will write in the bass clef for the following example. Figured bass appears as numbers underneath a given note. How the figured bass appears in music will be on the left, and then what that figured bass is asking you to play will be on the right. Figured bass follows the key signature unless otherwise notated. We will use C major for all of the following examples. If the chord is in root position, no numbers will be present. If there is a 6 underneath the note, it is in first inversion, meaning the third is in the bass, and if there is a 6-4 underneath the note, it is in second inversion. It is worth noting that these numbers specifically apply for when the notes indicate triads, as there will be different numbers for when a chord is a 7th chord. Filling in the rest of the notes from the figured bass is often called realizing the part. So in this instance, the figured bass was on the left and the realization is on the right. So for that first example, we used C major. What you'll notice is that the bottom note needs to keep changing for us to continue to play C major. Instead of changing the bottom note, what if we left the note the same each time? If I were to write G as the bottom of the different figured bass triad inversions, what chords would we get? Feel free to pause the video if you would like a little time to work it out for yourself. Remember that there will be no flats or sharps in this example. No number is root position, 6 means first inversion, and 6-4 means second inversion. There will be a 5-second countdown before I reveal and talk through the answers. The first chord is G major, as G is both the root and lowest note when there are no numbers for figured bass. The second chord is E minor over G. When there is a 6 for the figured bass, it means that the chord is in first inversion, or that the lowest note is the third of the chord. Finally, the third chord is C major over G. 6-4 in the figured bass implies a second inversion chord, which means that the fifth of the chord is in the bass. This alone is plenty to work through and practice, but I do want to go just a little bit deeper as to why these numbers apply to these chords. Some folks may find the explanation to be illuminating, and others may find it to be a bit overwhelming. If you find yourself in that second camp, there's nothing wrong with just straight memorization. The numbers, or lack thereof, in figured bass are intended to reveal to you what intervals are to be written above the indicated note. Because printing or handwriting music was a fairly laborious endeavor, composers and performers began to work on a shorthand that could be written more quickly and provide the same information. To accomplish this, they omitted any 3 or 5 from the figured bass and left any numbers that were different. This is why the root position chord has no numbers. The implied numbers should be 3 and 5, and a musician should just know to play a third and fifth above the given root note. Similarly, with the first inversion chord, a 6 and a third are necessary to complete the chord. The 3 is omitted and only the 6 remains. The second inversion chord is the only chord that shows all of the information by having both a 6th and a 4th for the figured bass, indicating that those two intervals are needed above the given note. To keep this video from being too long, I will craft a separate video that will analyze an excerpt using figured bass, as well as go through the process of realizing a short example of figured bass. Please leave any questions you have in the comments below. The more specific the question, the better I can answer it. Don't hesitate to ask anything. Figured bass can be a difficult system to understand, but you will become good at what you practice. As a final note, I've only ever seen figured bass in an academic setting, meaning college. As someone who writes music, performs with a big band, and teaches private lessons on a multitude of different instruments, this is not a system I use practically ever. People today do not have much use for cursive in their everyday lives, but to understand historical documents, genealogy, and other old writings, it may be necessary to learn how to read and write cursive. I view figured bass in about the same way. While I do not have a current and present need for it in my own music, if you intend to study older music, specifically that of the Baroque era, or if you intend to perform or try and write in a similar style, it can be helpful to understand the systems of writing at that time, which are quite different to the systems that are expected and usual today. This has been another episode of Music Theory Intermediate. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. If you have a question, it's likely someone else does too. A like, share, and subscribe are always appreciated. I look forward to working with you to build your skills from the ground up.